Hello, my name is Diana Mavashev, and today I will be presenting my research paper, which is the use of history in films. And I will be doing this through the analyzation of two Oscar-nominated films in 2024, which were Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer. So, a brief little topic introduction of why I thought this was an important issue. So generally speaking, history has the ability to really help people understand and learn about events, cultures, personalities, etc., which are very important to our understanding of modern day events. But they also have the ability to change these narratives and reconstruct them for the viewer's entertainment or to help them resonate better with these characters or events. And I will be using these two Oscar-nominated films, Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese and Oppenheimer by Christian Nolan, and examine these figures and events and look into whether these events were altered for these creative liberties. But my goal is also to contrast these films with their narrative counterparts, which include documentaries and books. So for Oppenheimer, we have the documentary, which is Oppenheimer, the Real Story. And then for Killers of the Flower Moon, we have the book, which is Killers of the Flower Moon, the Osage Murders, and the Birth of the FBI. And by examining these works with their counterparts, it's really going to address the question of what is history doing in these films that is not being done in the documentaries and books. So a little bit of a historical background of Killers of the Flower Moon, both for the book and the movie. The event centers in the early 1920s in the Osage Nation, which is a indigenous group in Oklahoma, and they ultimately became very wealthy because they discovered oil beneath their land. And this newfound wealth has led to a series of murders and harassments from other people in their community who were not native. And this is known as the Osage Reign of Terror. So over many years, dozens of Osage members were killed by different means like poisoning or just shooting. And there's just widespread conspiracy to take away their land and oil. And these murders have really brought to light the deep-seated racism and corruption and exploitation of Native Americans during this period. And both the book and the film really examine this historical event. So in this slide, I'll be comparing the book and the film. So the book has really brought in a lot of historical analysis, and it really focused on the systemic exploitation of the Osage people. So it really brought us, it was almost like bringing us through how it happened even before 1920. So how they found the land and then how they took hold of the land and how this reign of terror began. But in doing so, it was almost a chronological series of events, and this led to another really big part of the book, which is the development of the FBI. However, the film does not focus on the FBI whatsoever, and the main um, point of view of the film is the dynamic between the two main characters, Molly and Ernest. So another major difference is the character portrayal. So in the book, Tom White and William Hale are portrayed more factually. So they're not portrayed in the villainous role that we are seeing with the movie. So they're kind of just people, and Graham, who is the writer of the book, talks us through these actions in a very passive manner. which is not done in the movie. So in the movie, we really see their psychological and emotional motivation for their need to take and seize the land. And it really focuses on Ernest, and it portrays him in this conflicted like figure torn between like love and loyalty for his uncle and for his wife. But in the book, we really do not see this at all. And now we're going to talk about historical accuracy. So the book and the film try to stay as on point as possible. So, the book really has a lot of detailed and nuanced explorations into the events. So it sheds a lot of light on research and also interviewing members of the tribe personally, like using these primary sources and like articles whatsoever. And the film also focuses on accuracy, but it definitely does take a lot of creative liberties to really like enhance our connection with this event. And also something that isn't done in the book is commentary. So we see Scorsese's using a lot of different symbolic acts and moments to comment on America's portrayal of this event, which is not done in the book. And it really talks, and by using these symbolic events, we're really focusing on this personal tragedy as opposed to like this broader investigation. Now let's talk about Oppenheimer. So Oppenheimer, often called the father of the atomic bomb, was a physicist, and he played a very important role in the development of the nuclear weapons during World War II. He was the director of the Manhattan Project, and he led a group of scientists in Los Alamos in New Mexico, and they were forced to design and construct the atomic bombs. And this was initiated in 1942, and it was like secret wartime effort by the United States, Canada, and United Kingdom to develop the nuclear weapons before Nazi Germany was able to do so. And the project was a success, and it curated the atomic bomb known as Trinity on July 16, 1945. So this was a result of the development of this bomb. And because of Trinity in 1945, it led to what we know as the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August of 1945. And this really brought us into this nuclear age, with like this profound ethical and geopolitical implication. So a major comparison between Oppenheimer and Oppenheimer, the real story, is that the narrative structure of Oppenheimer as a film was much more artistic. We see a very discombobulated narrative, and it's not linear in terms of time frame. So it really kind of helps us look into this internal conflict, and it almost brings us along with Oppenheimer to kind of like check out what went wrong and like how he got to those trials. And it really waves us with this emotional and psychological weight of the decision. But the documentary is incredibly straightforward. So it goes, so another thing that that the movie doesn't do is it brings us right to the beginning of how he started working on the project. But the documentary was just like a factual progression of events. And it starts off from like his childhood and his life, and then it progresses to what we know as the trials. And another difference is the portrayal of character. So Nolan obviously uses a lot of deep and personal portrayals of Oppenheimer to highlight his intelligence and like vulnerabilities and doubts with this atomic bomb. But in the documentary, it kind of like leans more into like the opinion or the perspective of other people that are in Oppenheimer's life, and like footage that we have access to develop like a more external and almost passive view of his character. So it really focuses on this public action as opposed to his internal struggle. And then in terms of historical detail, the documentary is obviously a lot more comprehensive of the historical context, and it includes a lot of the like scientific challenges of the Manhattan Project and the political time frame and the post-war implications. So it really helps us learn more about the time frame as well as the character as opposed to the film, which obviously condenses and dramatizes a lot of aspects in order to help us stay focused on the main character, Oppenheimer, and the revolving characters in his life. But we really don't get much of a glimpse of the political and post-war implications that are arising during this time frame. And then both the film and documentary examine ethical dilemmas surrounding creation and the use of the bomb, but the film definitely delves like a lot deeper into his like personal struggle in terms of like visual and narrative techniques. So they use black and white to portray the trials. And it almost mirrors his like idea of guilt and responsibility. But the documentary presents these issues in like a more historical analysis and like a reflection of people who were there. And as a conclusion, like using a lot of film theory, these films are often used to comment on the contemporary issues without directly commenting on them. And they make a lot of very difficult issues accessible and emotionally impactful. So we really get to learn about these events in a more accessible way. Um, and historical accuracy and this combination of dramatic storytelling really engages the audience to watch these films. And it really helps create a bridge between our past and present, something that we don't really see a lot from in documentaries and books. And they're really able to bring these events through imagery and through powerful performances and symbolism. And it makes it more immediate and like relatable to us as people. And this combination of character development and sound and storytelling and like acting really helps us understand these events on a more personal level, almost helping us to put us in the shoes of these characters and feel either sorry for them or, happy for them, whatever the instance may be. And in both Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer, it's used not just to recount events, but to help us think about these movies after we watch them and to think about these events. And we see film theory help like being utilized to really help us understand this. And we really understand that these films are positioned in a very unique light to help us look at these truths and their importance in our current world. Um, and they do serve as a powerful tool, even if they are condensed and aren't as detailed as books and documentaries. And lastly, here are some sources and citations that I used to really help put my research paper together alongside this presentation. Um, so yeah, thank you.